Every single day, humans consume 5 billion slices of pizza. Not per year, per day. That number is so staggering it barely feels real, yet here we are, a civilization so deeply in love with a simple combination of dough, sauce, and cheese that we have made it arguably the most eaten food on the entire planet. But the story of how pizza got here, from the narrow streets of Naples to your Friday night delivery order, is far stranger, far more dramatic, and far more political than most people ever realize. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover exactly how pizza evolved over thousands of years, why the version you eat today almost never came to exist, and how a single queen's lunch changed food history forever. We will walk through the ancient flatbreads that started it all, the poverty-stricken Naples that shaped pizza's soul, and the immigrant wave that turned a regional street food into a global obsession. And we will get to the one part of pizza history that almost every food documentary completely glosses over, a detail about American pizza that will completely reframe how you think about the slice in your hand. Let us go back to the very beginning. Long before anyone called it pizza, ancient civilizations were baking flatbreads topped with oils, herbs, and whatever ingredients were available nearby. Persian soldiers during the Achaemenid Empire, around 500 BCE, reportedly baked flatbreads on their shields over open fires, topping them with cheese and dates. The ancient Greeks who colonized southern Italy brought with them a dish called plakis, a flatbread seasoned with herbs, onion, and garlic. The Romans had their own version, called placenta, a baked dough layered with cheese and honey and flavored with bay leaves. These were not pizza as we know it, but they were the genetic ancestors of what was coming. The word pizza itself first appeared in a Latin text in Gaeta, southern Italy, in 997 CE. The document referenced pizza as a gift owed to a bishop, which tells us two things: pizza already had enough cultural value to function as currency, and it was already deeply embedded in the social life of southern Italy more than 1,000 years ago. But what made Naples the true birthplace of modern pizza was not just geography. It was economics. By the 18th century, Naples was one of the largest cities in Europe, packed with an enormous population of desperately poor urban workers known as lazzaroni. These were people who needed food that was cheap, filling, fast, and portable. Street vendors called pizzaioli began selling flatbreads topped with inexpensive ingredients: lard, salt, garlic, anchovies, and locally available cheese. These early pizzas were sold directly from the street, often from a box balanced on the vendor's head. The upper classes of Naples found this street food disgusting. They literally called it the food of the filthy poor. That contempt would not last forever. Here is what nobody talks about when they tell the pizza origin story. For the vast majority of pizza's history in Naples, there was no tomato sauce. The tomato, native to South America, arrived in Europe only after Spanish colonizers encountered it in the early 1500s. And for nearly 200 years after arriving in Europe, the tomato was widely considered poisonous. Wealthy Europeans grew tomato plants purely as ornamental decorations. It was the poor of southern Italy, with nothing to lose, who first dared to eat them. By the late 1700s, tomatoes had found their way onto Neapolitan flatbreads, and in that moment, something very close to modern pizza was born. Now we reach 1889, the most famous single event in pizza mythology. King Umberto I and Queen Margherita of Savoy were visiting Naples, and the Queen was reportedly tired of the heavy French cuisine that dominated royal meals. A local pizzaiolo named Raffaele Esposito was summoned to prepare pizzas for the royal household. He made 3 varieties. The one the Queen reportedly loved most was topped with tomato, mozzarella, and fresh basil, the colors of the Italian flag. Esposito named it Pizza Margherita in her honor. Whether this story is entirely factual or partially embellished has been debated by food historians, but one undeniable truth remains: the Margherita pizza became the template that defined pizza's identity for the entire world. Within a few decades of that royal meal, something else happened that would change pizza's trajectory permanently. Between 1880 and 1920, nearly 4 million Italians emigrated to the United States, and a huge proportion of them came from southern Italy, from Naples, Campania, and Sicily. They brought pizza with them. In 1905, Gennaro Lombardi opened what is widely recognized as the first American pizzeria in New York City's Little Italy neighborhood, on Spring Street in Manhattan. Lombardi's still exists today, which is a remarkable fact on its own. But here is where the American pizza story gets genuinely fascinating and deeply counterintuitive. The pizza that Italian immigrants made in America was not simply a copy of what they left behind. It evolved rapidly, shaped by new ingredients, new ovens, different flour, and most importantly, a new audience with different tastes. New York-style pizza emerged with its characteristic large, foldable, thin but chewy slices and heavy use of mozzarella. Then in the 1940s, something genuinely unexpected happened in Chicago. Ike Sewell and Rick Ricardo opened Pizzeria Uno in 1943 and introduced deep dish pizza, a thick, buttery crust baked in a pan, with ingredients layered in reverse order, cheese on the bottom and chunky tomato sauce on top. Italians in Italy found this bewildering, even offensive. It barely resembled what they knew. But Americans embraced it with enormous enthusiasm. What this moment illustrates is something profound about how food actually travels through culture. It does not simply transfer from one place to another. It mutates, it adapts, it absorbs its new environment, and sometimes the mutation becomes more influential than the original. Consider these numbers. Today, the United States alone has more than 78,000 pizza restaurants. Americans consume approximately 3 billion pizzas per year. The global pizza industry generates over $145 billion annually. Pizza Hut, founded in a tiny rented building in Wichita, Kansas in 1958, grew into a chain with more locations worldwide than many countries have cities. Domino's delivers in more than 90 countries. These are not just business statistics. They are the fingerprints of a cultural migration that started with street vendors in an impoverished Italian city. But what does this history actually tell us about food and culture at a deeper level? The trajectory of pizza reveals something important about how we relate to tradition versus innovation. In Naples, the Associazione Veris Pizza Napolitana, the true Neapolitan Pizza Association, was founded in 1984 to legally protect and define authentic Neapolitan pizza. Their strict standards specify that only 2 types of tomatoes are acceptable, that mozzarella must come from specific regions, that the dough must be hand-kneaded, and that the pizza must be baked in a wood-fired oven at 485 degrees Celsius for no longer than 90 seconds. In 2017, the United Nations officially recognized the art of Neapolitan pizza making as an intangible cultural heritage. That is the same category as flamenco dancing and Mongolian throat singing. Pizza is literally classified as a World Heritage art form. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Japan has developed its own pizza culture with toppings like mayonnaise, corn, and potato. Brazil is one of the world's largest pizza markets and regularly puts hearts of palm on their pies. In India, paneer and spiced lamb toppings are standard. Pizza has become a kind of universal template, a cultural language that every country rewrites in its own dialect. The base grammar is Neapolitan, but the vocabulary belongs to everyone. So the next time you open that cardboard box, you are not just eating dinner. You are eating the result of Persian soldiers cooking on shields, Greek colonists seasoning flatbread, impoverished Neapolitans improvising with tomatoes everyone else was afraid to touch, a queen's curiosity, 4 million immigrants crossing an ocean, and generations of bakers, entrepreneurs, and home cooks who kept reinventing the same idea over and over again. Pizza is not just food. It is history you can hold in your hands. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Flavor Vault for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.